You feeling burnout, Zach?
Not yet.
Okay. Today we're going to talk about what you do when you feel burnout and tapped out in marketing. Um, and it's a big, big, big problem.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, over 80% of marketers are dealing with burnout in some way, and more than half feel overwhelmed, emotionally exhausted, or undervalued. I think that's pretty when I was doing my research and I came across that, I was pretty surprised, honestly.
yeah, it's a little bit wild. Burnout is, I guess, what is it? Like, we can talk about that a little bit before we get into our cocktail. Um, the best thing I read is it's over reuse without refueling.
Mhm.
So think about, like, if you take a car too far, it's gonna die, right? Like, because you gotta either charge it if you're electric or get gas. But it's really chronic exhaustion. So ups and downs in your, like, motivation and your passion, those are really normal. Like, that happens for everybody in creative fields or in marketing. But when you start to feel like exhausted, you're mentally drained, physically hurt, like fatigue, not motivated, and it's chronic, it's consistent over a long time,
Mhm.
that's burnout. Like, just being like, oh, I don't feel creative today, I'm going to take a nap. That's not burnout. That's just like pausing.
And it's definitely more I feel like it's more common in a creative field too, kind of like what we'll get into, but yeah, I think everyone in almost any career has experienced burnout at least once in their life, probably multiple times. And today we're going to definitely talk about it and talk about ways kind of you can combat it. And also, I think
Mhm.
just taking a look at how it affects marketing as a whole, definitely in the marketing industry, because those are some high numbers. 80% of marketers dealing with burnout.
Yeah, and I know we'll get into stats in a little bit, but I was also reading, like, 37% of people who experience burnout in creative fields just want to quit. Like, they're ready to just give
Wow.
up and go do something else. Like, and I admit, like, I've thought of that, where you think about, like, in our field, you just keep going. Like, nothing is ever really done. You just continue to improve and iterate and go, 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 go. And I
Hmm.
feel for content creators too, because it's even worse, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just have to do so much. And sometimes I feel like, I think back to my days in, like, college working retail. When you are done at a retail store, you've put everything away, you close up, you go home, and you're done. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't follow you. You don't think about, like, oh, how many sweaters am I going to sell tomorrow? Or, what might my commission be 3 weeks from now? Oh, I've got to go find new clients to bring into the store tomorrow. You just don't. Like, you're done. And I really envy that sometimes, where you've created something and it's finished and you can be proud of it and you move on. But
Yeah, and I think you kind of covered the content creation side of it. I think there's just so many different strategies in marketing too, where like there's so many different routes you could take that sometimes that gets overwhelming as well, and you're kind of at a crossroads of where to go, and that can cause a kind of a little bit of a burnout.
yep.
But I feel like we're covering a lot in the intro, and maybe we just need to get into the cocktail so that we can
All right.
actually
So the
start
cocktail
talking.
is a Tia Mia. Um,
Yes.
and I know nothing about this cocktail, but it
So
looks delicious.
so a Tia Mia, right? Interesting name. It's actually a take on a Mai Tai. So Tia
Okay.
Mia, it's kind of,
Oh,
you see
you
where
flip the you.
it's flipped
It's
around.
an anagram for Mai Tai, a very easy anagram. It also means my aunt in Spanish. So, like,
Oh,
your
wow.
auntie.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2010, I think we've covered this bartender before, but Julie Reiner opened a Hawaiian themed restaurant and bar, Lani Kai, in New York City. They created the Tia Mia, an anagram of the Mai Tai, kind of like we said,
Mm-hmm.
for the drink list, and it's kind of been a favorite ever since. But yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
it's more focused on the mezcal side of things, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'll dive into that a little bit. So it's 1 ounce of mezcal espadín. I think that's just mezcal. Like, I don't think it's anything special. 1 ounce of Jamaican rum, We have rum from St. Thomas here because we went to St. Thomas and bought a bunch of rum and brought it in.
Oh,
You can bring like I can't remember if it was like 2 or 3 bottles a person, but we had a bunch of people who didn't drink, so we're like, you're bringing 2 bottles back, and they're like, okay. Half an ounce of orange curacao. You could probably also use now I'm blanking on it. Cointreau for that if you
oh
wanted
yeah.
to. A little orange flavor. A half an ounce of orgeat, which is spelled like orgeat, but it's orgeat. And then 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. Squeeze it yourself, please. Garnish is a mint sprig, a lime wheel, and you can float an edible orchid in there if you want to. So everything goes into the shaker except your garnishes, of course. Don't put the orchid in the shaker. Shake until chilled and your hand is cold. Strain into a large rocks glass over crushed or pebbled ice. Ooh, pebble ice is so good.
I feel like that's like a signature tiki thing.
So, fun fact, you can go to almost any fast food restaurant that has pebble ice and you can buy a bucket of ice if you're having a party or something. Um,
Oh,
yeah, it's possible. I think they still do it, but who knows. Anyway, it goes in there. Should look really beautiful. Garnish with a lime wheel, mint sprig, and then that orchid if you want to. And it's a great tropical drink. I know summer's kind of winding down. Like it sort of almost feels like it's gone because the weather got cooler, but this is a great one. Very nice.
yeah. Honestly, by the time this goes out, it'll probably be more of a fall time.
Right.
So,
So put a pin in this one till spring. Like next July, this will be a great drink for you at the pool.
are you a fan of
Or
mezcal, Rich?
I love mezcal. So what's really
Same.
funny is I don't generally like smoky things. Like smoked almonds, not interested. Smoked salmon, not interested. Love salmon, love almonds, not the smoked. But mezcal, it's got that spicy smoke to it. It's just I
Hmm.
don't know. And maybe it's because it's booze. I have no idea.
I
Um,
love mezcal. I love smoky things too. Like I love scotch. I love barbecue, all that stuff. So,
See, and I like Carolina barbecue the most, which is less smoky and more like vinegar and mustardy, like that
and
yellow
pulled
Carolina
pork
barbecue.
and
Mm-hmm.
Carolina
Yep.
Gold sauce.
Yep. Carolina Gold. Love me some Carolina Gold. All right. So that's the recipe. That's the intro. That's our takes on barbecue sauce. Shall we take a quick break and then get into it with some stats?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're back. And Zach, you had a big stat at the beginning. Was it 80% of marketers, something
Yes.
like that?
So 80% of marketers have felt or feeling burnout of some kind, like within the last year. So
Yeah. And I
crazy
found some
stat.
That's crazy. Like it's, I mean, and but it's like, it makes sense, right? Like we're moving
Hmm.
faster, we're doing more, we have all these tools, we're always on. So I miss the days, like, cause I'm old in the early 2000s or even in the 1990s. Like, I mean, I got my first cell phone in like 1997 or 1998. Like, no, it was, yeah, no, that would probably be it. I had a work one before that, which was exciting, but that was when I worked for Parks and Rec and had to be on call. But, when I was at agencies in like the late 90s, early 2000s, you had a desktop computer, not even a laptop. You had a desk phone. You had no smartphone. Most of us didn't actually have cell phones. And if we did, you paid per minute, you paid per text. So nobody wanted to reimburse that. So they didn't use it for work. So when you left at 5 o'clock, you were done until the next day. Now,
Hmm.
we would also work till like 7 or 8 at night to get stuff done because we couldn't just take it home, take a break, and then kick it up like later in the evening. Um, but I kind of miss those days. And I feel like burnout was a lot lower because you were forced to take those breaks and rest.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and with content creators, we kind of mentioned um, over half of creators feel uninspired almost all the time.
Yeah.
Half.
I
Um,
mean, it's just like kind of any creative field, right? I think especially with like content creation and like content marketing, especially from like my experience, it's really easy to get caught up, kind of how I was saying in the intro, in a lot of different algorithm shifts, strategies,
yep.
like, okay, like I have to post, like very consistently. What am I going to post without it being, the same thing over and over again? Like, how can I make things interesting and different? And when you go down that rabbit hole or you get stuck, it's just so easy to start feeling like, ugh, like not like you're beating your head against a wall, but kind of like you're beating
Hmm.
your head against a wall, trying to
Yeah.
figure out, where to go from like there. So I definitely know what you're talking about.
Well, and in the early days of like Facebook and Twitter, so there wasn't advertising, there wasn't like the algorithms were very basic. And it was really about like, what are you doing today? Like, I mean, people would literally tweet like, I'm eating the best sandwich ever. I mean, people still do, I guess, but like that was really common. It was kind of this, they called it microblogging for a reason, because it was sort of documenting your day as you go through. But now it's like so intense. And also like everybody wants video, right? And video is
Hmm.
harder to create than just, I'm eating a sandwich, I'm going
Well,
to the
and
mall.
there's so many platforms now too. Like in this, like I said, with the algorithm shifting, like you just have to be so on top of everything just to,
Hmm.
compete in, previous episode mentioned here, but the attention economy. It's so very prevalent, like
Yep.
especially like now. I think it's just there's so many factors that lead to it.
Yep. And it extends out like beyond just social and content, which I mean, everybody's kind of talking about, but you
Hmm.
look at like you're doing TV ads. Okay, where's that going to go? Like, because, networks were one thing. There were like 4 networks. That's all we had. And then there was cable, and there were like 10 or 15 cable channels. And then there were like 200, and then it's satellite. And now you still have all that, but you've also got streaming, and everything is getting diluted. So the impact you
Hmm.
have just continues to drop. And that can be deflating, right? Like you just like are like, God, why do I do this?
Yeah, you can have those moments of success where you feel like you figured it out, and then the next week it's just like, well, that same thing is no longer relevant, or like a month later, the strategy that worked for you so well, like recently, isn't working as well as it is like now, so you have to adapt.
Hmm.
And so, like I said, it's just a lot of shifting, a lot of factors lead into it, and marketing is like such a creative field, and it's constantly shifting that
Hmm.
you're bound to run into some kind of feeling of being overwhelmed. And interestingly enough,
Yeah.
a stat that I have is over 58% of marketers say they felt overwhelmed in the past year, which is crazy. So that's
I feel
definitely
like
a factor.
I feel like 58% of marketers will say they felt overwhelmed like in the last 24 hours these
Yeah.
days. Like that's a pretty common one. I think the other one that kind of hits here is when your work shifts. So I will like gonna go like full confession here. I will admit that I have moments where I'm just like, what are we even doing anymore? Because like I've worked on huge campaigns for big companies. We've gone to LA, we've shot with celebrities, we've done all this stuff, which was really fun and exciting and stressful in its own way. But it's got that like there's just that innate excitement to those kinds of things. I mean, you're staying in Santa Monica on the beach, you're driving to a Hollywood studio every day, you know, it's just amazing. And, we don't do that type of work here. Um, Obviously, we work with smaller clients. I mean, some of them are pretty big, but also we focus on lead gen, which gets you into this more cerebral place, and you start
Hmm.
doing less and less of the big thinking creative. And you do kind of think like, hmm, what happened? Is this all there is? And that's one of those things that I'm challenged with. And I do have a professional coach that I work with. I don't know if you even knew that. And we're kind of working through that and where the root of, it's not really burnout yet, but it's sort of this precursor to burnout. And I want to nip it because I want to
Hmm.
keep doing this for a while. So,
Well, and B2B marketing isn't exactly glamorous, right? Like, I wouldn't say like, it's like you said, we're not staying on the beach in Santa Monica to get anything done.
we aren't. I
But
mean,
I think
you,
that's another good point, right? Like, you also really need to like enjoy what you're doing to avoid like being burnt out. I mean, obviously not everything you're going to be doing 24/7 is supposed to be fun, but I think something to remember also is just finding those moments and those small wins
mhm,
that way you can, maybe you're not making like a huge like impact, but even those small wins where you're doing something productive and
yep.
also just, accomplishing something towards the bigger goal is something that can really help and has helped me in the past. Because when I look at things from a big picture standpoint, it's a lot more overwhelming when I say, okay, I got this done, you know, I got this one thing done, or I had this big win on this social post. Like, small wins are
Mhm.
really big.
Yeah, they are. I want to take a step back and just like we've talked a little bit about burnout, but let's talk about exactly what it is and how it's defined.
Oh, for
So,
sure.
like, how do you know you're getting burnout? I just said one thing where I'm kind of like, a little bit like numb to it. Like, I don't
Mm.
even know. And that's one of them, emotional numbness. You feel kind of detached. You kind of don't really care. You're emotionally numb to the creative work and other aspects of your life. You're just sort of like going through the motion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this lack of motivation, you don't want to start and complete tasks because you just don't feel like it. Fatigue is a big one. Um, just you're mentally and emotionally drained, even if you rest. So that whole thing, and I'm sure you've done this before. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go take like a 30-minute nap and I'll be re-energized. And you wake up from the nap way more tired than you went into the nap.
Mm-hmm.
Like it happens. Your performance starts to struggle. Like your performance is decreased. You're struggling to complete tasks. Maybe you're like getting in trouble or you're getting reprimanded, things like that. And then avoidance, just nope, I'm going to be over here, I'm not going to work on this today. You just don't want to do creative things, or you don't want to go to the places where you've been creative before. So those are really key indicators. And again, one or two of those here and there, I talked about, it's a precursor to burnout. Totally fine, you'll ebb and flow. But if you got kind of all of those or most of those consistently multiple days in a row, you're definitely on the road to burnout.
And that's something that you need to like identify for sure and kind
Mhm.
of combat. And there's ways that you can do that. We've talked about one, celebrating the small wins.
Yep,
Um,
it's a good
I don't
one.
know about you, Rich, but I think like one of the main like things that I realize I catch when I'm starting to feel burnt out is if things are like taking me like longer than I want them to be. Because like I'll
Mhm.
get stuck on one thing and it's just like, oh, I'm so frustrated. Like, why is this one thing like taking me so long? But then like I take a step back and I think about it and I'm like, maybe like I'm not as excited about this project as I have been in like other projects. But again, like I think everyone's experienced that in some
Mhm.
form, especially in marketing.
Yeah, you see that with writers a lot, right? Like they're working on
Mm-hmm.
something and they're just like, I'm
Writer's
not into
block.
this. I don't want to do this. Or they just avoid doing things until that the procrastination in writing and in creative can oftentimes be that you're at least a bit burned out. So you're pushing off and avoiding those things that aren't that interesting. And then, yeah, sometimes you take a lot longer on something that is. Sometimes you're stretching it out because you want to. And sometimes it's just because, why is this so hard?
Exactly. Yes. And it's like, when I like encounter those, I just have to remind myself, okay, like just get it done. Like you can always go back and like make it better if you need to. Like sometimes getting things done is better than like, we've talked about it before. 100% done is better than, I can't remember the saying, but
Done is better than perfect.
done is better than perfect. And yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
important to remember with stuff like that too.
It is. I mean, and I think on a scale, like what I would ask you, like as the owner of the agency and your boss's boss, I guess, is hey Zach, like, are you more or less than 50% of the time do you feel like you're working on things that suck? Because
Hmm.
we're all going to do things that suck. If it's 20-30% of your job, that's pretty normal. Like none of us have this like knock it out of the park. 100% of what we do is super exciting every day, all day. Like that would be exhausting in and of itself. But if you start to get below that 50%, where less than half of what you're doing is stuff you're excited about or feel good about, that's when I start to think, okay, we need to have a reset. We need to get back to that 70 to 80%. How do we do that?
And you discussed that in your team spotlight with Caitlin too. Like
I did.
I think that's a pretty good example, right? Like she wasn't exactly thrilled with what she was doing, and you kind of sensed that. So you went out and, talked to her, and now she's in a really good spot. So,
Yeah. And a little terrifying to be like, okay, I know you hate half of your job, but I don't know which half. And your job is really a half and half. Hers was at the time. And which half do you hate? Which half do you love? And having it being like, are you going to fire me or make me half time? And it's like, no, I'm going to take away what you hate. And we're going to go find somebody who loves that, because there are people who do love like schedules and lists and keeping people on track, and they get energy from that. 100%. I think dovetailing on yours, one of my things that I found is look at your past work. So, like taking a step back and reflecting is great, but something in the past got you into this. It gave you life. It gave you energy. Um, Remind yourself why you're doing this and what a good feeling feels like and what is good. And then kind of see if you can apply that to what you're doing today, or if you need to make a hard reset. Maybe you've evolved down a path that you don't want to go down. Well, was that old work down a completely different path? And do you need to make a hard change? Because some people do.
hmm.
but that's a big one, especially if you're artistic. So I do photography. We don't really talk about it. I haven't shot anything new since I moved to Omaha in 2017. So I am now on an 8-year photography drought. And I mean, and I used to schedule trips. I would go like out into the
Oh,
desert in
wow.
California and spend a day just driving around, walking around and shooting. And I go back, like I have my art all over the house too. Like if there's a photo in our house, it's probably mine. And I see them and I'm like, God, that was so great. But it's like, I don't have time to go do that. Um, and I need to kind of figure that out. But that's like one of those things I mean, that's a chronic burnout, 8 years.
Well, maybe you just haven't been inspired either, like nothing's really caught your eye in Omaha. I
Yeah. I
mean,
mean, and part of that is like change your location, right? Which can be a good
mhm.
thing for any burnout, like go somewhere else. And that's probably true. Like if I went out through the sand hills, would I find things I wanted to shoot? Maybe,
Well, and
you
you
know.
bring up scheduling a trip just for it. Maybe that's something you need to do. Like maybe you just mute those non-urgent like things in your life, block some time out for it and just make the time to do it, especially if it's something that's really important to you. Like
Hmm.
I think like when I was talking about like not feeling like I'm not able to like do something as efficiently as I want to,
Hmm.
something that's helped is just muting the rest of the world for a couple of like an hour or two and just making like that deep work time. Time blocking is really good. I wish I would
Hmm.
do that more honestly on my calendar, is just marking off times where I'm specifically doing one thing. That way I'm not jumping between so many different things. I think reducing my cognitive load kind of by grouping those similar tasks instead of
Hmm.
switching, like I said, would be really big. But yeah, I think, I don't know, like hearing you talk about that stuff is kind of getting me like thinking, what are some things I can do when it
Yeah.
happens next? But
Yep. And that's why we have little icons in Slack, right? We have the little brain icon or even a do not
hmm
disturb if somebody's out. But the brain icon means only bother me if this is an emergency and you absolutely need me right now because I am deep in doing something and I do not want to be distracted.
hmm
Um, and I think turning off those notifications, the do not disturb feature that Macs have, like there's a focus one where it's only going to push through like urgent emergency things. That can be helpful. And we have the flip side too, right? That's like the green light or whatever it is that we have in Slack that's like, hey, you can like reach out to me. Like I want to chat. I'm feeling a little lonely in my remote work. And I think that those are really good. And you have a mood for the difference of those, right? Like sometimes it might be good for you to take a break and just chat with Riley for a little while. And that's
hmm
going to get you motivated to get back into it. And sometimes you're like, I need everybody to just shut up and close out the world and I have to do this.
I think my biggest issue is I'm in between so many things sometimes in my head where like I'll run into something and I'm like, oh, I want to fix that, or I want to think of like a strategy for that, but I need to be doing this. And wait, maybe I can do this. So just really having that narrow view of I'm going to be doing this at
Mhm.
this time would probably be super, super helpful for me.
Yeah. I'm
But
curious if you resonate with this metaphor. So somebody asked me at one point, like, why I have trouble sleeping, why I have trouble focusing sometimes. And I said, my brain, especially when I go to bed, it is like I have 500 movies running at the same time, but each one is just a little sliver of the screen. But I want to watch all of them and I want to go through all of them. And I said, it's
mhm.
hard to shut off that noise. And I found a couple of things that do, like melatonin doesn't, like NyQuil doesn't, ZQL
Oh
does,
my
like none of
gosh.
those do.
As
Um,
someone with like ADHD, like melatonin for some reason, like it actually like increases my heart rate a little bit. Like I don't know if
it
it's just
can.
because I'm like psyching myself out for before sleep, but that's also why I'm like in between so many tasks. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
but that
So
would be it.
I think that gets kind of my next point about like how to help yourself with burnout. And this is, some people are like, oh, this is so cheesy, but self-care,
hmm
rest, refuel, reconnect with yourself, with people, try to move in some way, get up and walk around. You don't have to be like, run a
That's my
marathon
favorite one.
or do a
I just
mile. Just, yeah, you used to go for hikes with your dog in the middle of the day.
Well, I spend like 15 minutes every day, like just walking Misa. Like
Hmm.
that mental break that I need. I know it'll be in the afternoon and it's consistent. So whenever I'm
Hmm.
like really feeling like, oh, I need to go out and walk, like just go walk with Misa, my
And when it's
dog.
not 105 degrees outside, it's much nicer to do that. So,
Oh yeah, the weather's getting really nice, so it's been like really
yep.
enjoyable. But
Yeah.
I think
So,
one of the first things that I ever like said when I worked here, I made like this infographic on like how I kind of like how my content creation framework was. And one of the things was like, take a break when you're doing it or like take a walk because when you're coming up with like content ideas, like it's really easy to get deep into things and get stuck with kind of that same like writer's block like feeling. And if you're not really like, making rest a part of your workflow, it's really easy to get stuck on like one idea or two ideas and
hmm
not be able to move on from that. And
yep.
as someone who's trying to come up with a lot of ideas all the time, like rest and like walking Misa and making sure I take mental breaks is super important.
Yeah. And I think, taking breaks is just key and working from home. So, like, do things away from your desk. Don't eat lunch at your
Mm-hmm.
desk. You shouldn't do that in the office either, but have some sort of a routine that breaks up your day. So one of the things that I used to do, and I need to get back to it because I do eat at my desk, but I'm usually playing like a video game or something on my computer, um, to take a mental break into something else, at least during lunch. But I used to, watch a show. Like I would have 1 hour show, which is about 45 minutes. I'd make my lunch. I would go sit in the living room. I would watch that show. It would get done at 1 o'clock or a little before, and that would be my break. So I'm completely putting myself in a whole other world. I think that's a huge one.
Mm-hmm. I listen to podcasts while I
Mhm.
work because it's just like if I'm not watching something, then listening to something is really easy because you can still have your like focus on the screen that you like
Mhm.
your work screen.
Yep.
But I like
Podcast, music.
podcasts and music; those are really good.
Yep. So I think the other point on self care is say no. I think this is hard for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes, what was my favorite chapter was the chapter that surprised me, saying yes to saying no. And like basically giving yourself permission to see when you're being overused, overworked, abused, and saying no. Um, I think especially if you're freelancing or a small agency or something, you kind of want to take every project because money, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to, we need the money. We've all been there. And having the luxury of being very choosy about your projects is a great place to get to. But you do have to look at your balancing that financial gain and your mental well-being. Is it a bad client? Are they mean? Are they just going to dictate to you what you want to do and that's going to make your burnout worse? Or are they like somebody who's going to energize you? They're going to give you that creative freedom. It's going to be more of they'll respect your expertise and all of that. And I think the first time you kind of do that rejection and you say no to somebody, it just gets easier after that. But saying no, and even you like, hey, can you chat? Saying, no, not right now. I'm deep in something. Like, it's important to do that, just to keep yourself sane.
Totally agree. I know we're getting a little tight on time, but one thing I wanted to cover before we kind of close this is the actual angle of feeling undervalued or feeling like you have imposter syndrome, which leads to burnout. So I think marketers, so this is a stat that I found 80% of marketers have felt like some form of imposter syndrome at some point in their careers.
Mhm.
And I think that's pretty common and understandable with how many different strategies, best practices that are flying around. We keep bringing up how much the industry shifts, but that is a major impact on. You feel like you need to know everything, but the reality is there's no way you're going to know everything in the world of marketing.
Correct.
And so that definitely like feeling like, oh, like I really like don't know what I'm doing kind of thing. Like there's just so many people out there putting out good insights on LinkedIn and I feel like I'm nowhere at their level. I felt like that before, like early in my career. And I think it's just super common, right? Like we're all comparing ourselves to others
Mhm.
and that's social media for you, but
And that's also a good reason to go look at your past work. Compare yourself to yourself.
mhm.
Have you improved? Is it going forward? All of that. Yeah, I think that's a huge one. And there's a reason that like fake it till you make it is a phrase, or fake it till you feel it. Like I've had imposter syndrome a few times, but I've also, from a marketing standpoint, been a little more arrogant about my skills and what I can do, and basically like, oh, I can figure that out. Like, oh, we've never done that before, but I can figure that out. But if you tell a client, oh, we've never done that before, or a potential employer, they're like, I want somebody who has. And you'd be like, oh yeah, that's 100% doable, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like frantically searching for, how do I do this? But I've also been really self-taught for a long time. So I just have that confidence of that piece, but I definitely get imposter syndrome, moreover with like the CEO role or things like that, where I'm like, am I actually good at leading this company? Like, I don't know, like that's where I get it versus, you ask me like, hey, can we geofence 42 locations in random places around the country and blah, blah, blah. And what will that cost? And it's like, yeah, we can do that. I'll let you know what it'll cost. And then we go figure out how to do it. Or I call Riley and I'm like, Riley, draw some hexagons on this map. Here's what we need to do.
Well, for me, the way I think about it, right, is I think the biggest time, I kind of said this like briefly, but the biggest time where I feel imposter syndrome is when I'm comparing myself to others on LinkedIn, because there's so many like content creators and content marketing, like people that are doing really cool things. And I'm like, oh, I need to do that. Like, that's such a good idea. And I think something that's important to remember is where I started versus where I am now. When I think of it that way, I'm like, wow, like I have come a lot farther than like I've ever probably expected that I would.
Yep.
And having that proof of impact in my head is really important. And I would recommend that if you're feeling that way, like compare yourself to where you started to where you are now, and keep something, like maybe it's a document, maybe it's in your note. Keep track of the small wins and victories and the impact that you're making. And also just recognize that like self-doubt is also a sign that you're exploring something new and learning. So it's not necessarily something you need to be like, oh, I suck, like I'm not good at this. Like, no, like
Yeah.
you're not good at this yet. Like, reframe that thought into a positive thought and just be kind to yourself, honestly.
Yep.
Everyone needs to be kind to
Yep.
themselves.
Who never has self-doubt? Narcissists. So if
True.
you like, having self-doubt is very healthy, 100%. So I think the
And
last point, I know we gotta wrap this up, and I get that, but the last point is like, reflect a little bit. Like, think about what's driving your burnout. Is it overworked? Are you just bored, getting boring, pedantic projects that you're just like churning out the same thing over and over? Are your clients too difficult, so nothing is fun? And honestly, get some help. You can actually talk to a therapist about this, because burnout in life and burnout in work are very, very similar. You can also get a leadership coach or a work coach. Like, those exist. It's sort of it is a form of therapy, but it's a little bit different.
and honestly, like just talking to like other people within your company, like, hey, like I feel like I don't know what I'm doing here, or like I feel like I'm struggling at this point. Like, do you have any like perspective? Or hey, like I'm feeling like a little bit like I need to like be better at this. Like, you can get some good like materials for like training and stuff like that too. There's always like an avenue that where you can go for help, I think.
Yep.
Therapy, talking to other people or coworkers, for sure. Like, I think it's important to remember those things.
Yep, I agree. All right, I think that is the episode. So hopefully anybody who's feeling burnout can like get in there. But if you figure out why, that's your first step to fixing it. And if you need help with that, ask somebody, reach out. So Zach, if you are ever burnout, you can reach out to me anytime you want to and be like, hey, I'm just not feeling it.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
As always, you can find our agency at antidote71.com, and all of our socials are there as well. If you have a question about burnout, maybe talk to a therapist, but we can also help you with anything else marketing related. You can head over to ctapodcast.live to shoot us an email. Even better, leave us a voice message. I would definitely put it in the episode. Go to our hotline at 402-718-9971 to do that. Your question will make it into a future episode of a podcast. And in terms of what episode's going to be next week, I think, this is probably going to be at the end of Q3. So your guess is as good as ours at the moment, but it's going to be a great episode. So